Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, so that does mean magazine review day. And today we are on the December 1985 into January 1986. So luckily, the last review video that we did was the October/November 1985. So luckily, we are still on schedule or still in order with this magazine. So that's pretty cool. As I said, a lot of these 1980s magazines, we're not going to have them in order. But like I said, man, we got over 100 magazines to go through between the 80s and 90s. So, yeah, you're going to have some magazines missing here and there, but we are going to have a good chunk of them to go through. So that's pretty solid. And the best thing about this is I've never once gone through any of these magazines, not one single time. So my first time ever looking at a single page will be with you guys for the first time, so that's awesome. And this magazine is actually something I'm really excited about. One thing is, it's a Christmas special, so that's pretty amazing. And it's Roddy Piper, one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and that's pretty awesome. And that's pretty amazing as well. So let's look at what we got here. Piper's Pit and Roddy's Follies on CBS reviewed. So I'm pretty excited to go through this magazine with you guys and see what this one is all about. Now, a lot of time with these magazines, it's not exactly the most interesting thing in the world. Like I said, you know, we're not going through page by page reading every single thing that we're going through, right? A lot of it has a lot to do with the pictures and advertisements, things like that. But we're trying to find things that really stand out, like the Coliseum home videos and the action figures and maybe other past magazines. Maybe there's something that I don't have that maybe is populating, like something like this. WrestleMania 1 is shown here. I actually got the actual, what they called it, clamshell. Is that what the old VHS tapes are called? It's only bad thing about that is they don't actually fit on the shelf the way that your regular VHS tapes. So me, you know how I am. I have major OCD and I like that fluidity, right? I like everything being dress right dress. So when things aren't evenly balanced, that drives me insane. Let's kind of go through this and see what we're looking at here. Got the Dream Team with Beefcake and Valentine. Pedro Morales. You know, I don't know anything about Pedro Morales, so I'm kind of interested in kind of looking more over with him as well. I know he was like a superstar in the 80s, maybe in the 70s, but obviously, I didn't grow up watching him, so he's like one of those characters that everyone's always talking about. Like, hey, man, when is someone like a Ram Treasures, for example, when are they going to make like their own, custom LGN figure of this guy? Hey, it might happen. I don't think like big rubber guys will ever make like a Pedro Morales because it doesn't fall into their time. Actually, he might. They talked about like 1984 to 1992. So, Pedro Morales, he could fall within that time frame. So you might see a Pedro Morales in the 1984 time frame with a Big Rubber Guys figure. It's possible. Ricky Steamboat looking buff. I've talked about it before, man. When I think about Greg Valentine, obviously, Greg Valentine was obviously a mega superstar in the 80s, right? Tag team champion, intercontinental champion, had like all of these major feuds. And to me, when I think of Greg Valentine, he was just like a mid-card level guy. Like, he was, I wouldn't call him like a Coco Beware. To me, Coco Beware was like a jobber type. But he was, someone that beats up jobbers and wins, but like not anyone that like you would really think of that would really qualify for like your heavyweight championships, your intercontinental championships. He'd be like someone that comes into your your Royal Rumbles, maybe last 20 minutes, 30 minutes even, holds his own, but no one that you really suspect would do any major damage. No one that like comes in, tosses out a bunch of guys, and really threaten to win a Rumble match, right? Because that wasn't my Greg Valentine of the 90s. That's not the guy that I think of as, being a legitimate superstar. If I was born maybe 5 years earlier, 7 years earlier, 10 years earlier, and actually got to witness Greg Valentine of the 1980s, my interpretation of that Valentine, especially mid-1980s Valentine, I'm kind of jealous of, guys that actually grew up during this era, because, Valentine with Beefcake, you're talking about one of the top heel tag teams of the decade, man. And who had the best figure four leg lock? Was it Tito Santana? Was it Ric Flair? Was it Greg Valentine? I don't know. To me, I'd say Ric Flair would always be the guy with the best figure four, but I know Greg Valentine and like Tito Santana always kind of like went back and forth, kind of like mocked each other with like, I got the best figure four leg lock. No, I do. And I don't think Tito Santana, was that even his primary finisher? Or was he just trying to rip off Greg Valentine because that was his deal? All right, Pedro Morales. Yeah, like, I have no idea who this guy is. Like, I know him by name only, right? But a lot of these guys I only know by name and reputation only. It's like, who's a good example? I'm kind of looking at my Remcos over here. Carlos Colon. Carlos Colon is like a perfect example. Carlos Colon is like, nationally renowned in Puerto Rico, right? And I never knew who Carlos Colon was. I've never seen him wrestle. But like when I started collecting the Remco line, right? And I saw his Remco figure with the orange singlet, I knew immediately that's Carlos Colon. Now, how did I know that's Carlos Colon without ever watching Carlos Colon a day in my life? And it's because I think it was the 92 Royal Rumble, because that was my first introduction to Carlos Colon, is seeing him run down the aisle. And I remember that orange singlet very vividly. So, and that's why I love that 92 Royal Rumble. You just had all these mega superstars, even people that you never seen wrestle previously. It just shows you how important that Rumble was. Year of the Piper. Man, I noticed this immediately. Wow. Look at those pants on Sheik. I kind of look at his L. Jane figure. I look at these pants. That's pretty freaking incredible. Those championship belts. I really got to get into belt collecting or something. I know I don't have any space, and championship belts, especially authentic replica belts, are like crazy expensive. You're talking, really good, high quality replica belts are like top hundreds to thousands, and I'm not paying that type of money, but those are awesome. And the Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik, he's another one of those guys I always talk about, where I didn't watch the Iron Sheik in the 1980s, but like I always have like these vivid memories of the Iron Sheik. And I'm not talking 1990s Colonel Mustafa. I'm talking about 1984. Me not even being born yet, I still remember the Hulk Hogan Iron Sheik match. And you kind of remember because of the Best of Hulkamania, with all of Hulk Hogan's, greatest matchups, Hogan against Savage and the Iron Sheik and Warrior. Actually, it may not have been Warrior, because I think Best of Hulkamania would have only shown him against his the guys he actually defeated. So maybe WrestleMania 3 against Andre, for example. But what is this? Roddy Piper. Paul Rubens. Piper and Pee Wee. So it doesn't look like a whole lot going on in this magazine, sadly. Got some good picks in here, but not a whole lot that I can really see that's really piquing my interest. There's that awesome championship belt again. Did some reviews on these magazines some months ago. Yeah, I really wish I had more to talk about in these magazines, but there's not really a whole lot to go off of. It would be nice if, like, these little, if you could still order some of these shirts, because I mean, I would definitely go for these Roddy Piper t-shirts. I might go for that Saturday Night's Main Event t-shirt. Why not? But that's about it. We looked at these in the previous video, the last magazine. I don't think I'm going to harp on these again, since we've already talked about it in the last time around. Missed a magazine. Back issues are now available. Oh, I think I missed some pages here. If there's not a whole lot to talk about at this, what I'm probably going to do, I know in the last video, one of the viewers, Scott, asked me, he mentioned that he liked one of the military stories I had. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of military stories, oddly enough. But there is one funny story, kind of looking at that Sheik picture. And it got me thinking about, I don't know what made me think about it, but it had me thinking about one night, working in the warehouse. And I might talk about that story if this video doesn't go too long. I'm not the best storyteller in the world, but I might try my best. Yeah, I think I might bring that up because it doesn't really look like there's a lot going on in this magazine. Right now, I'm just going page by page and not a whole lot of things of interest. Not really. Yeah, this is pretty much it. So, a magazine I was actually really interested in, and it didn't actually have a lot in here, unfortunately. So, the cover was pretty much the best part about this magazine. But the Iron Sheik, where was it? Alright, so, a story about, not really about the Iron Sheik, but, so 2008, 2009, here is my deployment story. And it is one of the few really entertaining stories that I've got. So we're in the Al-Qut province of Iraq. And the base is called Fob Delta. So, unlike our first deployment, our second deployment was 15 months, and we actually had a job the second time around. Our brigade commander, Colonel, what was his name? Oh man, who the heck was his name? I can't remember his name, but our brigade commander was the FOB commander, and our brigade ran the entire FOB. Our battalion ran the hangar, so we ran the flight line. We ran the class 1 yard for the food and water. We ran the SSA, aka warehouse. So we did all the supplies and all that, right? So, anyways, I was on night shift, and one night there's this big ass freaking spider, camel spider in the damn in the office. I don't know how a damn camel spider got in the darn office, but if you guys seen a damn camel spider, those sons of bitches are about yay big, okay? Those damn things are like damn 10 feet big. Those things are huge. And if you're ever outside at night walking, you got to use the bathroom, you got to go to like the porta john or something, and you got your flashlights and you're walking around, those little SOBs like to play freaking football with you. You know, they like to, put their little antennas up and like to chase you around. One of my coworkers, he has 2 packages in his hand. One package in his left hand is like a care package for Sergeant Wallace, who was my squad leader. Now, I don't know if it was like a care package, if it was like a order that she got from Amazon, or if like maybe her family sent her this package. I don't know. Oh, you know what? Picture frames. That's what they were. They were picture frames. So he's got this package, his care package in his left hand, and he's got this big ass heavy package in his right hand. Vehicle repair parts, whatever, warehouse parts in his right hand. This damn camel spider starts coming at him. Instead of throwing this big ass heavy box warehouse parts on the damn spider, stepping on the spider, whatever, no. He decides he wants to float. Yes, he wants to float this 8-ounce package that belongs to Sergeant Wallace on top of this damn mother of all spiders. Let me float this package on top of this 10-foot damn spider. Well, that damn spider did not go down. That damn spider was still moving with the damn box right on top of him. Well, Sergeant Triplet and his damn 8-foot tall body decides to get up out of his chair, and his damn 10 feet tall jumps up out of nowhere. Pow! Squashes that mug out of nowhere. Well, come to find out, inside of that box was, again, a bunch of picture frames that Sergeant Wallace had ordered. So that package was completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Fisher, in his right hand, is still holding this, 50-pound box of warehouse supplies that he could have easily just thrown on top of the side. I mean, you were not going to damage anything inside of that box. I'm like, the entire time, we're all just sitting there thinking, who would motherfreaking do it? You could have stepped on this mug You could have left the darn sucker be. I mean, he wasn't bothering anybody. Except when he put those damn antennas up and he starts coming after you. If you guys get the opportunity to look up camel spiders, sand spiders, scorpion spiders, whatever you want to call them, those damn camel spiders are freaking nasty. Those things are disgusting. I swear to God, they are the creepiest suckers in the world. If he wanted to really kill the sucker, he could have just thrown that big ass box and squashed the sucker and been done with it. But float. I'm going to float this box on top of you. I'm like, my God. It's like, what is it? 15 years later, 16 years later, that damn story still gets to me to this day. And of course, you guys know when I think about the Iron Sheik, I mean, obviously he's an Iranian citizen, right? But every time I think of Iron Sheik, I think about Colonel Mustafa, and he portrayed the Iraqi soldier during the Gulf War in the early 90s. So when I think of Iron Sheik, I think about that character. So obviously it takes me back to my Iraq memories, and obviously there are not a lot of good memories with Iraq. Obviously, a lot of PTSD, man, from serving overseas. I mean, I almost got killed, almost got my head blown off. But I mean, there's a lot of negatives, but you gotta obviously think about the positives here and there. Just like life, you're gonna have goods, you're gonna have bads. You go good days, bad days, right? And that is something that you can reflect on in a positive light. And that was just a good night, a humorous night to enjoy. And there were a lot of good nights like that. And I still get a chuckle, a decade and a half later. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And from time to time, I'm hoping that as I go through these magazines, some stories like that, I get to kind of rehash some of those memories with you guys as well. So, but that's it for now, guys. Again, I didn't have a whole lot to talk about with this in regard to this particular magazine. So maybe in the future with these particular magazines, if there's not a whole lot to go through with the magazines, maybe I could talk about some other things to kind of make the video a little bit more enjoyable. So thank you for tuning in for this week's magazine review. And please feel free to join me next week for the follow-up magazine review. Thanks, everybody.